Policy SIG Session 1. I know it's difficult to discuss policy after lunch, but we have to do it. And first, introduce myself. I'm Shwan Savid, Policy Chair, APNIC, and along with my two co-chairs, Mr. Ching Han Koo, he's from Taiwan, and Mr. Burton from New Caledonia. So we have a local co-chair here. So if somebody wants to ask a question in local language, I think it should be okay in this meeting. And before going to the meeting, I just want to mention a few administrative things to start with, especially for the newcomers. So this is the policy charter. Here we are here for developing policies and procedure, which is related to the IP address management and Internet Address Resource Management by APNIC, NIR, and also by the ISPs. And we have a mailing list to discuss, sig-policy@apnic.net, and detail about the policy procedure and how to submit your policy and how we discuss and go on is you can go detail in the www.apnic.net/policy-sig. So here we are, we mentioned, chair and co-chairs. These are the steps for the newcomers, actually, how we accept a policy proposal and finally it gets implemented. So you can submit policy proposal and then it goes to the mailing list. We have a lot of discussion in the mailing list. And finally it comes to this meeting. This meeting we have to discuss around 6 policies in 3 different sessions. And if we can reach consensus in the policy meeting, then it goes to the members meeting in the AMM tomorrow. And if there is a consensus there, then there is a comment period. And then EC need to endorse this policy. Then finally, individual comment period. And finally, if everything goes on, then a secretariat will implement that policy. And here, actually, we made mistakes sometimes. There is not voting. We need to reach a consensus about a policy. That means everybody should agree. There should be a general agreement about implementing the policy in the APNIC region. There might be some objection. There could be minor objection that some problem may occur. There might be major objection that everything may break. So if there is an objection, author and all the participants should work together and come to a consensus. To gauge consensus, chair will consider the mailing list discussions in policy SIG, in the open policy meeting, and we also welcome remote participation. And at the end of every proposal, we will ask for show of hand, and also you can also do it via Confer, the automatic tool. But we have some not very comfortable experience last time, so this time actually we will even if you use Confer, we'll consider the show of hands for gauging consensus. But we like to try Confer, so it helps remote participation. And if we all agree, and if it works fine, then in future meetings we can go only with Confer. But to use Confer, please make sure you need to log in the Confer at apnic.net. And I must mention that all the previous Confer's accounts are disabled. So if you have my APNIC account, you can use that to use Confer, or you can create a new account and into the website, that is the confer.apnic.net, and you can create a new account if you do not have any MyAPNIC account. And you have to access via email address, and you will get a validation link sent to your email address. This is the agenda for today's meeting, that we have one proposal to discuss, prohibit to transfer IP address in the final /8 blocks by Tomohiro Fujisaki. I must mention this is the 3rd time we're discussing this proposal this meeting. So, and secondly, we have a presentation by Izumi Okutani, remote participation in SIG elections. And that will be after the policy discussion. And tomorrow we have to discuss 2 more proposals in the first session. And And in the second session, there's a policy 3. We have 2 more proposals to discuss. So we have a busy time in policy SIG meeting this year. And those who are more interested to know about more policy development process in APNIC, you can go to the following URLs. You can get the SIG guidelines. And the mailing list archive is there, so you can go through what happened, what discussion happened in the mailing list earlier. And you can also subscribe the mailing list from there. And thank you very much from my side. And so let's move with the policy discussion, and I'll ask Tomohiro to come up and discuss Prop 116.
Okay, let me start. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tomohiro Fujisaki, working for NTT Japan, and here I make a presentation about Proposal 116, prohibit to transfer IPv4 address in the final associated block. Okay, this first slide. Original motivation to propose this is that I found that the 103 address block, this is the final address block to the APNIC region, was transferred to the outside the APNIC. And I checked the transfer log a few days ago, and I found the 9103 block was transferred to the ADN region, and 5 transferred to the live region. So, and actually, as many of you know, the final /8 block was distributed to use the each RIR to manage their exhaustion locally. So I believe that 103/8 block should be used in the APNIC region. This is my original motivation to propose this. Okay, so objective of this proposal is keeping distribution from 103 block, this is final /8 block again, to be consistent with the original purpose. The original purpose was discussed at the proposal 062, and in that time we discussed that 103 pool is mainly for distribution for new entrants to our industry. So, and the motivation is to avoid the 103 address block to be consumed for the transfer purpose only. This is the objective of this proposal. And this is a problem statement. And I found that there are a lot of transfers of IPv4 address blocks from the 103 address, 103/8 happening within the APNIC and also among the RIRs. Actually, the number of transfers from 103 address block was about 352. This is a very big number. And this is about 40% of the total number of transfers. And based on the information provided by the APNIC Secretariat, and thank you so much for providing this data, and the number of transfers from the 103 address block has increased year by year. I'll show you the graph about that. And this bar chart shows the top 20 number of transfers in /8 block. The x-axis shows the /8 address block, and the y-axis shows the number of transfers. For example, this 103 means from 103/8, we have over 350 transfers, and also 202/8, in the 202/8, we have over 150 transfers. As you can see, the transfers in the 103 block is so many compared to the other /8. And next graph shows the trend of the transfer. And the upper graph shows the M&A transfers, and the below graph shows the market transfer of the 103 address block. As you can see, especially for the market transfer, the number of transfer is increased year by year. Actually, 2000 This year is still middle, so but the number is increasing, as you can see. And also, transfers from the 103 address block include the transfer occurred within the 1 year of distribution, and currently, by the operation, hostmaster operation, this is prohibited. But in the past, there are many 1 year transfers, and also I found that multiple address 103 address block was transferred to the one organization, and one organization have the 12 103 address block, and I think this is not fair. So you can check this kind of situation from the transfer logs. So from these facts, I think that it's quite likely that many 103 address block was used to the transfer purpose and want to prohibit this kind of situation. And so I propose to prohibit the 103 address block transfer, and if it's possible, so 103 address block will be used with the original distribution purpose. And this is the proposed policy solution. As Chair explained, this is the third time, and this I changed the policy implementation a little. And then here I proposed to prohibit transfer of the 103 address block, which have not passed 2 years after its distribution. And also I added the final line that the purpose of this policy proposal is to manage the final success block. So maybe it's in the 2 or 3 years, the final success block is exhausted. So at the time, this policy will be end. And this is the situation of other RARs. Actually, live region restricts the transfer like this. So they say the scarce resources, this is IPv4 address, and also the 16-bit AS number, and they restrict to transfer this scarce address, which transferred for the 2 year. So I think this kind of base policy will be needed in the APNIC region, but yes, currently live region have this kind of policy. Okay, and this is the advantages of this proposal, and of course, so it makes possible to use the 103 address block with the original purpose, and also we can use the 103 address block in the APNIC region, and by prohibiting the transfer to keep the fairness under the final state that every LIR have the /22. And this is the impact to the APNIC and LIR. And of course, yes, with this policy, LIRs cannot transfer the 103 address block, but it's not, I think it's not a big impact while they're using it. And so, of course, there are many other blocks. So if LIR needs additional IPv4 address, they can transfer with the such kind of address block. And this slide shows the discussion opinions on the policy SIG ML. We have the number of people basis. I have the 6 opinions, as 5 is supportive and 1 is negative. And 3 of the in these 5 suggests that M&A should be excluded as an exception. So I understand that opinion, but actually the previous version, in the previous version, I treat the M&A with exception, but I got some comments that if we treat the M&A as an exception, that will be the make whole, because I heard that some countries in the APNIC region to create the legal entity and to destroy the legal entity so easy. So that will be a make whole. So this version, I omit the exception for the M&A. And I got the with the negative opinion that says that. So he says already we have the 1 year prohibition of the transfer, but I believe that, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is the current operation, not the policy. So I think we need to define such kind of restriction with the policy. And also with that mail, he says that, so yeah, this policy prohibit to that people cannot just open a new account and sell it at the same time. But I would like to prohibit this kind of activities. Yes. Okay, this is summary, and I propose to prohibit transfer under the 103 address block. And with this policy, I believe that the distribution from 103 block will be consistent with its original purpose. Yes, this is end of my presentation. And any questions or comments?
Can I?
Go ahead.
Okay. Kenny Huang, Executive Council member of APNIC. First of all, I'd like to thank Tomohiro Fujisaki-san for continuing engagement on the policy development, and because the proposal has been submitted and discussed for almost 2 years. And second, I personally support the proposal, but with the MMA, we need to the other consideration for MMA, because according to current transaction record, actually we found probably something wrong with the MMA, especially for address transfer. We happened for the last year, a lot of address transfer between the MMA. So for MMA, I guess we probably need to consider more comprehensive methodology to do the due diligence. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm Rajesh Jain. While I'm supportive of the policy, I assume that just a clarification that M&A also is prohibited in your policy as you are proposing.
Yeah, actually, current policy text prohibits the M&A, but I think that, yeah, actually, in the APNIC address policy, the transfer and M&A is totally different policy, so we can modify the M&A policy to treat such kind of things, but current policy text prohibits the M&A transfer.
Okay, and M&A will prevail in its own form, whatever.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can I?
Yeah.
I am Parhar from Net Plus Broadband Services. I support this proposal because the original purpose of this proposal, of allotting the the IP addresses in this pool, was to promote or help or handhold the new entrants.
Yeah.
And if such kind of figures like one company taking in 12 of them in the last of this pool, then it means there's something more going on, which should not be the case. So I support this proposal and in its present form.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Simon, AS number 58587. I partially support this proposal,
Yep.
but you said they can transfer this proposal, transfer the AS IP addresses after 2 years.
Yeah.
That part I disagree. Because let's say if when you are giving a presentation, I'm just calculated all the price. So after 2 years, with the financial cost as a percentage of 5%, my cost is $4,417. So that means if I multiply by 1,000 IPs, that means per IP cost $4.4. So as a network engineer, even I can expend within 2 years $4,004, and I can sell it with a market with a higher price. So 2 years barrier is not that barrier for the market. One. Second thing is that if I come from an LDC, least developed country, then after 10 years, after 5 years, my cost of this investment with the 5% of financial cost, it becomes $5.5 per IP if I take /22. Right, and this kind of country like from Asia, even like in Bangladesh, within $170 you can get a legal entity. With that document, you can easily apply for a IP to APNIC. So I do believe that 103/8 was purpose for the new entries, very good. Second thing is that your proposal will reduce the barriers of entry, very good. But 2 years time it's not good. I guess it should be 6 years for the without the LDC countries, and for the LDC countries it should be 10 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. But yeah, from the
From left, just hold on, Jahangir.
Yeah, actually, I have the same point that I do agree with the policy, but the breakup of the price of per IP for 2-year tenure, it's making about $8 per IP. That's if you sell it out after 2 years. So probably more than 5 years, or probably just the 5 years would. Probably 5 years would make it a bit more less business incentive rather than using the IP for their own benefit. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jahangir Hussain from Bangladesh. Actually, I have been supporting this policy last 2 meetings. Still, I am supporting.
Thank you.
Still, I am supporting by considering the 2 things. The one thing is new entrance organization, and second thing is to help to promote the IPv6 deployment in this region. Because during the transfer, we are the service provider, always try to deploy the IPv6 version 4. So this policy help to encourage or whatever the discourage to service provider to deploy the IPv6 network and help us to entrance the new organization as well. Again, I support this for the 3rd time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Afternoon, everyone. I'm from China. We have some concerns about this policy. And firstly, under the final /8 policy, as new number, we can only apply maximum /22 IPv4 address from final /8 pool. We can't apply bigger IPv4 block like the old members before final /8 policy. We are already at a disadvantage in this aspect. Regarding the transfer, we claim to have the equal rights as same as those old members. Market transfer is very common today. Why we just prohibit the transfer from /8? Actually, there is no difference between final /8 and other earlier IPv4 address in use. Secondly, address no longer in use is just one of the reasons of transfer. There are many other reasons, such as business cooperation, which may lead to transfer. This proposal will seriously affect our normal business. Given that there are big concerns about this proposal, so we recommend to consider this proposal more carefully. We need a longer period and wider discussions in the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. Just one comment for your opinion that actually the final /8 block is different from the other previously allocated block because the final /8 block is something like that, the special purpose block for so it's not equal to the previous allocated blocks, I believe. Yep.
Hello, my name is Imran, coming from Pakistan. For this proposal, I don't support this proposal in current state unless changes are made as requested by the others. Like Fahad said, some in terms of the revenue generation like this. And for the tenure period will be extend about 5 or 6 years.
So in the sense about the period, so current projection says that maybe 3 or 4 years, after 3 or 4 years, the 103 block will be exhausted. So I think the 5 or 6 years will be no mean, because this block will be exhausted before that. Yep.
Yeah. Aftab Siddiqui speaking as the member of the community. Just to clarify that the purpose of this policy proposal is to safeguard last/8 pool. We are only talking about 103/8.
Yes, yes, of course.
And we are only restricting the transfer, and we are only restricting the merger and acquisition for only last/8 and nothing else.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of the last/8 policy was to support the new LIRs so that they can start their businesses and start their company or provide services with the legacy IPv4. And we have seen through the graphs that people have misused it, established companies, and then sold it. So the only reason why I totally agree with other fellow commenters that the merger and acquisition should be treated in a similar way like any other transfer, and the limit should be increased to probably a decade. Just get over with it. It's like we gave the IP addresses to you so that you can start your businesses. Don't make a business out of selling your company. So we shouldn't be supporting it. So anyway, it's my comment.
Thank you so much.
Rajesh Charya, I'm speaking in my personal capacity. Tomohiro, just I want to clarify your summary. This proposal is applicable on the merger and acquisition also?
Yes, current text says so.
Because
yes.
in your summary it was not being mentioned.
No, sorry? Oh.
In the summary of the proposal, it was not being mentioned that this is applicable on the merger and acquisition also.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry on that point put on the summary, but yes, this is the yes, policy solution, and the last sentence of the first paragraph, the M&A, yeah.
Because in summary it was not being mentioned.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
sorry, I'm sorry.
we
but
require some
this
clarification.
is the proposed policy.
I have a suggestion. When a new startup is starting his business,
Yeah.
he's investing some money into that business. And unfortunately, when the startup is not able to scale his business, he wants to dispose of.
Yeah. Yep.
At that time, whatsoever his investment is there, he actually wants to recover that investment after selling his business, whether the business is complete or not complete. While I support this policy, but I want with the small amendment that the merger and acquisition should be removed from that transfer prohibition.
Yeah. Thank you.
Alain Durand speaking on my own capability, certainly not in speaking for ICANN or any of my other employers in the past or in the future. The policy of this last/8 is allocating resources for a very, very small amount of money. And those resources have a value on the marketplace that is much higher, as people have pointed out.
Yep.
So this is akin to printing money. The calculation made by some of the previous speakers, somehow assume a fixed cost per IP address. And if we look at the prices of IP addresses in the marketplace, we see that they are going up. And there are different predictions about how far they can go. But there's a certain possibility that they could go much, much higher than what they are now. Now think about like $100 or more. It's something that has been discussed many times. So any policy that is essentially trying to restrict this by counting how many years it takes to go to the price of an IP address, if you want to do that, it's going to have to be revisited all the time. And not sure it is really workable. But more than that, what I'm really afraid of is as those addresses get more and more valuable on the marketplace, people will become more and more creative on how to abuse the current policy of the //8. It could be through fake mergers and acquisitions. It could also be through transfers of assets without being recorded as assets in the APNIC database. So we might be encouraging a black market of IP addresses, and there's exchange of money, but it's not recorded in the database. At that point, the accuracy of a database may suffer. So we have to be very careful here to make a good trade-off between the idea that those addresses have to go to the right place and making sure that the database remains accurate. I'm afraid that any policy that is trying to restrict the accuracy of a database is not necessarily going in the right direction. But that's my personal opinion that I wanted to share today.
Yep, thank you so much.
We'll take two more comments, and please, from gentleman from right.
Okay, Kenny Huang speaking on my personal capacity. First of all, just to clarify that Tomohiro Fujisaki already mentioned, the final /A or 103/A actually is a special purpose allocation policy that already well defined in the APNIC policy proposal. And secondly, we spend a lot of time to discuss the similar proposal, but in reality, all the IPv4 is going to run out within the 2 or 3 years. So yes, if we don't do any action to mitigate that kind of situation, we don't have to any other IPv4 policy we can discuss in the next few years. So basically, I support the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jean-Luc Fedina from New Caledonia. What I want to say is I totally agree with you, totally supporting your policy, but I would like to add that we should completely prohibit the transfer. So there won't be the price would be fair for everyone, and user IP address should return to APNIC, and APNIC would reassign the address. And this is under the responsibility of APNIC, not a private company that would make money on the IP address. That's it.
Thank you.
So if we totally block the transfer, there is no discussion about the price, or not for 2 years, 4 years. For every end-use address, IP address should return to APNIC, and it is under the responsibility of APNIC to reassign to the members, and that's it. Thank you.
Last comment. Yeah.
Thank you. Here is the online comment, and it's from Kamran's side, and his own opinion that I partially support this, but after some amendments, the tenure should increase at least 5 years.
Thank you very much. So I think we've got a lot of comments on that. In fact, in the mailing list, we have discussion on that, and we got some strong support for the proposal. And also we got a suggestion here from Rajesh Sharia, and also in the mailing list that excluding merger and acquisition. We also got different views as well that by using fake merger and acquisition, people can actually exploit that. So I've got a different comment on that as well. And one suggestion we have got strongly, that is to increase the timeline of the transfer, that is from 2 years to 5 years, even 10 years. And last comment we have received from that side, that no transfer at all. It should come back to APNIC. So what you can feel that there is a strong support for the preventing IP transfer IPv4 address for final /8, 1003/8 block. And so now I think it's time for go to consider. Before that, do you want to consider the proposal of that increasing the time frame from 2 years to some longer time?
Actually, about the time frame, so this year, well, sorry, could you show this? Last line says here, I propose to end this policy when the final stage block run out. And so, as I said, current projection, this block will be run out before the 5 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. So maybe extend the period to the over the 5 is no mean. Yeah.
You want to make any comments?
Aftab Siddiqui speaking in my personal capacity.
Yep.
The policies make sense even if the last /S runs out. The thing is, we are talking about if you get a /22 right after this policy is implemented, so next year, right? So still have 103 address space available in the pool. You get it. You cannot transfer it for next 5 years. This is what other people were suggesting. I was suggesting 10, but anyway.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Running out of IPv4 addresses has nothing to do with the limit. You still have v4 addresses in the block. You can still allocate it. And the only question raised from other people is just put a restriction for those who will get it when there's still pool available in the block.
So actually, why I set the end date in this version is I propose another policy to manage the end of the 103/8, and in that policy, after the exhaustion, the 103, and also the existing return block was merged and treated as same. So if the policy leaves at that time, so maybe people get 103 and another block mixed.
Parhar speaking in my personal capacity. See, please remember the principle when this 103 pool was allocated. The principle was very clear that it is meant for new startups. We should handhold people who are starting businesses new. That was the principle. Now, by getting it monetized, we are going against that principle. There is no question of monetizing this pool. What has to be done is this pool is meant for just startups. So I would even go to the extent to say that there should not be a 2-year thing. Let it be a permanent thing. That this pool is only meant for startups. Even after this pool runs out, let these IPs come back into the system and let it go back again to new startups. Let this pool be used just for this purpose only and not for any other purpose, whether it is merger and acquisition. If there is a merger and acquisition of this pool, then probably the gentleman who made his business case made a faulty business case, and it is no case that the pool should be used as a means of asset. Thank you.
Okay, I understand your opinion.
Please.
Okay. In general, I agree about that. But I think implementation, the difficulty will be happening here. How the APNIC can verify this is a new startup company is very difficult. Because APNIC is not a sovereignty, have an authority to verify you are the new or not. For example, if a company, he tried to create another entity out, and I claim this is a new company, and doing the business, how are we going to do that? That's my question. I'm not commenting about. That's just a question for all.
Aftab Siddiqui, again speaking in my personal capacity, I would totally agree with Mr. Parhar. The thing is, we shouldn't be considering IP addresses as assets. We get it. So even the even in the membership agreement, it is considered as we are just a custodian. So we shouldn't be considered as our asset and selling it. Even though if we block the transfer forever, it will start another business case, which is leasing. So people will start leasing it out. But the thing is, it's not as lucrative as selling it at the moment. The thing is, we should do something quick. Tomohiro, I really support your idea to do something for the community on last/8 block, but I would really request you to reconsider removing the last line that it will the restriction will be end once the 103/8 runs out. Remove that one and put some numbers in terms of year, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, or forever. And you can see you can get a good support, and we can pass this proposal either today or tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I understand your opinion, and yeah, actually, I added the last sentence because my proposal needs the last sentence. So maybe it should be reconsider the final/8 exhaustion plan at the same time. But yeah, I understand your opinion.
Everybody is adding personal capacity. So in personal capacity, I am Rajesh Jain. So I also agree with Aftab that this last line should be removed, the restriction, because your new policy proposal may or may not be accepted. While you are saying that that will be covered in whichever form, so from here it should be removed. Thank you. And whatever number of years.
Okay, so in that sense, this is not this proposal, but tomorrow I will make a presentation about the final/8 exhaustion management plan, and in that, so as you said, we still need the two pools in the future, and so to manage both pools separately. So in that sense, so yes, this final sentence is no need to add. Yeah, I understand that point. Yeah.
Sanjay?
Sanjay, speaking for the APNIC Secretariat, trying to respond to Kowegu's comment about startup. Actually, the policy, as we interpret it, is actually it's still available for new members. Meaning, it doesn't have to be a startup. It could be, in fact, lately we're seeing banks, universities that has been there for a while. It's not a startup, but they have this need to be on the routing table. So, so that's the definition that we're following at the moment. It's not necessarily startup. Yes, most startup would join APNIC, but also there are other organizations like government agencies and so on. Thanks.
Thank you, Sanjay, for the clarification. I think I would like Tomohiro, if you want to reconsider the timeline, the request from many speakers here. If not, still, actually, we're getting 2 years' time to update, even if it goes as it is, because at least 2 years session is there. So then maybe any policy to update again. So, Tomohiro, if you want to make any update or if you want to stick with your policy, then I'll go for the consensus, actually.
Yes, one question about the period, and also, is it possible to remove the last sentence and ask to consensus, or?
Yeah, remove?
Yeah, actually, so, please.
Can you see the proposal on the screen?
Thank you.
Should we go to process tomorrow or we'll do it now?
Oh, it's okay, but I want to hear how, 2 years is okay or 5 is okay? I'm not sure.
So should I go as it is?
Sorry?
You have to go as it is like that? You have to change this line?
Yeah, and first I remove this line, and so the question is, it's okay, the 2 years or 4 years, 5 years.
It's up to you.
Yeah, but I want to hear the
Okay.
opinion of the community.
Okay.
How many
Okay.
Yes, we keep the
So
prohibition.
so for this moment, just we are removing this line, right?
Yeah, and so if so, maybe yeah.
Should do 2 years or so 2 years confirmed, right?
Can we ask the community how many years?
Yeah, you can actually ask.
So one question to community. So how many years to prohibit is good or so I want to hear the community's.
I think to tell a number, it is 5 years, then if we're supporting 5 years to go for 5 years? Or,
Yes,
sure.
currently I propose 2 years, yeah.
I mean, the thing is that what we are shouting, because you are giving 2 years,
Yep.
but within these 2 years, if you make a business plan, it's success. But 3 years, yes, you are telling that /8 will be over. But it's a network is an organic growth. So 3 years, maybe it will go 4 years. So I think 5 years would be the safest plan.
Okay.
Okay. So
Those who are supporting for this 5 years change in the policy and he wants to make it 5 years. Tommy just want to know if there is support from the members. So how many are supporting 5 years? Okay, we can see a good number. Thank you. Those who want to keep it in 2 years. So there's a good support for 5 years, I think. And I think let's go with that now. We should not. We have not much time. If you need more, then we can have a new policy proposal sometimes, and we can go with that. 5 years is a good amount of time, I think. And also, Tamir wants to remove the last line that after the exhaustion of 103 blocks, still the policy is valid actually. So it cannot be transferred within next 5 years, right, Tamir?
yeah.
Yeah. So with that, two changes that for either margin acquisition or transfer, this 103/8 block cannot be transferred within 5 years, and even after the exhaustion of 103 blocks, the policy will be valid and it cannot be transferred within 5 years after the allocation. So that is the final wording. Probably text will be updated shortly. I think there's it's already updated. Yeah, great. So now I like to go for the consensus of the policy. So if there is any strong objection or on this proposal, which we just uttered and displayed on the screen, please raise your hand if there is any objection against this proposal. I don't see any. So those who are supporting this proposal, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think no need to discuss because it's anonymously. I think we reached consensus for this proposal with this modification. That is, the restriction will be for 5 years, and even after exhaustion of 103 blocks, the policy will remain valid. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So now we should move to our next agenda. So we have a presentation from Izumi Okutani on remote participation for election. And Izumi was supposed to present this in the last meeting, but for due to time constraint, we couldn't do it. So Izumi, we have please present.
Is there like a flicker? Is this the one? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Izumi Okutani, and I'm presenting as a policy liaison in APNIC. As Simone has mentioned, this is actually not a policy proposal, but a follow-up from the last meeting where I didn't have time to make a presentation on remote participation engagement related to the policy development process. Just as a bit of background, This discussion has started just 1 year ago in APNIC42 meeting, where Masato Yamanishi made a proposal to revise the SIG guidelines document. And it constituted of two components. One is to revise the SIG chair and co-chair term so that the term will be staggered. And then the second was remote participation for SIG chair and co-chair election. And it was the second part which was really controversial. Many different opinions, and it didn't reach consensus. And it was really important discussions for our community in terms of the policy development process. However, Masato could no longer continue attending APNIC meetings because of his changing job. So I took over this proposal at the last APNIC meeting in APNIC43. What I did was I took the first component of the proposal on the revision of the chair and co-chair term. I made a proposal and it reached consensus. For the second part, I didn't put it in as a policy proposal because I felt that there were so many different opinions expressed that it's still too preliminary to propose something specific. So it would be better to first listen to the opinions from the community rather than propose something specific at this stage. Didn't have time, so that's why I'm making this presentation at the session this time. So just as a recap to have a shared understanding on the current process related to remote participation. As most of you are aware, when it comes to providing your input or expressing your position on on a policy proposal at Policy SIG, then you can express your comments through chat, or you can express your opinion through the conference system. So this system is available. However, when it comes to the election of a chair or co-chair for Policy SIG, the criteria to be able to vote is now today limited only to those who are physically in the meeting room. So remote participation mechanism is not available for SIG elections. So the question is it okay? Are we comfortable enough to keep this scheme as it is? Or do we want to change this? Before we go directly into answering yes or no to this, let me just share a couple of objective facts. First, on APNIC44. So this is the system that we're using, launched since APNIC38. And this is an electronic system being proposed to replace the traditional show of hands that we just did earlier. And this is to make it easier for participants to be able to express their comments about policy proposal without being seen by others. Oh, this person supported this proposal, or especially when it comes to opposition. Some people feel that they don't want to be seen that they're opposed to a particular proposal. So it gives you anonymity to express your position on a particular policy proposal. And information required to register to confer is email address, which can be free email, so it doesn't have to be linked to your APNIC account or your meeting registration, password of your own choosing, and display name. I think this is for the chat, and it can be nickname. So this is a table showing how you can actually engage in Policy SIG or other SIG sessions. So the left-hand column showing various ways that you're able to participate, ranging from simply listening to the discussions without expressing your opinion. The second is that you're able to express your comments on the proposal either through the microphone or by chat. The third is to express your position, whether you support or oppose to a policy proposal. And then the fourth is expressing your, casting your vote for a SIG chair or co-chair election. And when it comes to comparing on-site and remote, on-site, all these four options are available. This is obvious for I guess, because everybody can see your phase and who's making comments or showing hands, etc. So of course, when it comes to exposing identity of the participants in these processes on site, yes, whoever's there on site, everybody can see you, what you're saying or what position you're taking, except if you use Confer. So let's take a look at remote participation. So all these 4 options, out of 4, 3 of these options are available for remote participants, except for the chair election. And then when it comes to expressing identity of the participants, actually we're not able to really identify who's making comments unless this participant voluntarily tell his or her real name, or when it comes to Confer, we don't know who this person is. So this is really not possible through remote participation under the current system. Let's also take a look at what's happening in other RIR regions. And just to summarize, just in short, I don't think any of the regions apply exactly the same process as policy proposal when it comes to electing their chair or co-chair of a SIG or working group or whatever they call it. So for example, in case of APNIC, they don't provide a formal process of remote participation when it comes to election. If you take a look at ARIN, they actually require quite substantial registration details, pretty much the same as the information you need to provide when you register for a meeting. In case of LACNIC, everybody votes online, so there's no physical show of hands when it comes to election, and you have to be registered in policy mailing list within the LACNIC region to be able to vote. The last is the RIPE region, and in their case, they are a bit more flexible. Online participants can express who they support for election. However, when there's a huge difference between what on-site participants support and online participants, then there will be secret ballots by on-site participants. So priority given to on-site participants. So this is how different RIRs actually accommodate or not accommodate remote participation. And to summarize, where remote participation is possible for election, then there's more tendency that you are required to provide more information compared to APNIC Confer. And I think that 2 types of approaches are observed. One approach, A, is that you are required to register substantial information, such as in the case of ARIN, where you have to provide the same level of information as meeting registration. So it's like including your postal address, possibly, or the email account that is linked to your APNIC member ARIN membership account or in some form or the other. So it's more rigid way of checking who you are. The second, B, is more similar, like where RIPE region is taking. It's lightweight, but when it comes to differences, then on-site result will be given the priority. So that's the situation. And some food for thoughts for the future and what we want to do about this SIG chair election in our region. So what exactly is the problem that we are trying to solve here? Are we really hearing that people want to participate remotely to the election, and are we really hearing issues around it? Or are we just like doing a theoretical exercise? Hey, this is not possible, so should we do it? The second point for food for thought is, what is our priority? Is our key priority that we want to first start with widening the people who are able to come and participate in policy SIG and discussions? Or is our number 1 priority making SIG chair and co-chair election available to remote participation? So we really want to be thinking of what is it that we really want to be achieving. And in case that most of you feel that we should also allow remote participation for the SIG election, is it sufficient to apply the current system that we have, confer, to election as well, or should we have more substantial checking in a way to make sure that we're able to identify or comfortable level of information collected to avoid cases such as fraud or trying to pretend as somebody else. So misuse of this system. So 3 options. Option A is continue with the current process. So the SIG chair or co-chair election only limited to remote participants. And of course, in the future, when we hear specific needs to change this, anyone is always welcome and open to make a proposal. Option B is start a test deployment. So we can, try to see how much needs are there and does this really increase the level of participation. However, formal decision will only take place on site. So remote participation system is just for reference. The third is formally accommodate online participation for SIG chair and co-chair elections. So these are the 3 options, and it would be really helpful to hear your inputs on what you want to do in the future.
Hello, I'm Jahangir from Bangladesh. Based on my initial capacity, I know the special interest group is an open forum for committee for discuss topics and interest. There is no entry requirement to participate in the activity of the APNIC policy special interest group. I read this line from APNIC URL as a guideline of policy. So this means that there is no restriction for policy's participation. So we are trying to restrict for voting. The thing is, if online participants, my comment is, if online participants want to vote for policy SIG chair or co-chair, I think they should be registered with APNIC member and participate online for voting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Izumi, thank you for raising this question because it's a very hot topic right now. First of all, we cannot ignore these remote participants, because all the people cannot come to Taiwan from those South Asian countries because it's very expensive to come all the time. Maybe it's happened on India, Nepal, and Bhutan. Maybe they can join. This is my comment. So it is all the time, maybe we cannot ignore those people. I support it should be a formal process to have the online participants. Secondly, if you want to take all the votes from this room, don't you think it can be abused? So that's why my proposal should be you convert your proposal B and C. Can I see the proposal, please? Proposal B and C together, then I think it could be a good one. Thank you.
He landed there first before me. That's why I was saying. Anyway, the question is here that we are community driven. Since we are community driven, participation by more and more members is desirable. So whether that participation is on site or whether it is remote, it is desirable. Because that participation, that is the strength of an organization like ours. More and more participation. Now in this case where we are trying to figure out that for these elections of chair and co-chair, do we allow? I say yes. We must have remote participation. Let people remotely vote because like the speaker earlier said, everyone, all our members cannot afford to come for whatever reasons. But that should not take away their right to make an informed judgment. So in this case, I suggest similar like other gentlemen, have a test case as well as allow for remote participation, but after setting proper norms for remote participation where every identity, everything of a person is authenticated and he is allowed to vote. with proper systems in place. Thank you.
Brajesh Jain, could I see the policy proposals again, B and C? I also support previous two speakers that we should go to start a test deployment and ultimately go for voting. But there should be a very properly catalogued process that who is authorized and the person who is voting is whichever manner, whether it is through the pre-registered voting like in some other region or whether it is through the certificate or something. So that should be there, and only those pre-registered, and it should be known that there are how many voters valid for such a thing. Because as somebody explained that coming to Taiwan may be easier, but next meeting is going to take place in New Caledonia. So it will be very difficult for many people from this region to be able to at all reach there. So that becomes remote participation even more important. Thank you.
The community should understand we are the internet people. And if we will not support online participation, then what is the use of internet over here? Then at least we should not discuss this. Online participation should be there.
After?
So, so who's going to speak?
Go ahead.
Yes, Aftab Siddiqui, Internet Society. I'm speaking as a member of the Internet Society who is not the member of APNIC. Just to clarify, my friend Jahangir, that you don't have to be a member to attend any of the policy SIG or any SIG meetings. And I don't have any membership, so even I'm attending remotely, I cannot attend as a member. I can attend as a member of the community. So there should be a process where a normal member of the community rather than APNIC member can register themselves, identify themselves, and be a legitimate voter and be a legitimate listener and a legitimate commenter. So there is nothing wrong with it. We have to have, as Rajesh Saab said, we don't even have to talk about including remote participant, yes or no. They should be part of it. They should be part of the process. But the only problem we had in the past was the legitimacy of the voters and the legitimacy of the people commenting on it. So if we can overcome that problem, there is nothing wrong with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Aftab. No, please.
Thank you for all your feedback. So the feedback so far is support for remote participation. So I think everybody who stood up so far supported it, and I think Aftab gave a really good summary on what the potential challenge could be, is that, so this is not linked to APNIC membership. So I think there was earlier suggestion on linking with APNIC membership account, but that would actually not accommodate people who are genuinely interested in participating in policy, but not an APNIC member. So we should think about a system where we are able to get these people, but I think it would be desirable to make our system stronger than CONFER, because in the last meeting we had a bit of discussions on authenticity. So I think this may be an area that we need to consider as we try to accommodate remote participation.
Dr. Govindu, you're waiting for a long time.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My point is also, I support the previous comments which came from the members and other people, that we should support the remote participation with the mechanism where, some fake people should not come into that. There should be some mechanism where how to identify whether you are the real member who are voting or participating.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be, I don't know how to ensure that. I think the B point which you said, one test case can be made, but remote participation should be there. One another point which I would like to make here is even within on-site voting, the hand raising is very confusion sometime it comes. We should see some secret ballot within the room, some dropping in some box or something like that, rather than hand raising, and then sometime one doesn't know whether which side is more and which side is less, because there should be some proper way of organizing those kind of voting within on-site also. That's my suggestion.
Thank you.
Actually, the hand raising we're using for the consensus, probably for the policy or for vote as well. Yeah, okay, thank you.
This is Gaurav Upadhyay. I'm not commenting on it, but I'd like to remind the room that when we do policy discussion, we are not doing voting. That if you're referring to it as votes, then I see a fundamental misunderstanding of how the policy process is supposed to work. We are not really voting on policies, it's gaining consensus. And as a previous chair of APNIC Policy SIG, I think we need to value that fundamental understanding that we are not really voting. So let's not use that term. Measuring consensus is difficult. I know that. I've had to deal with that. And there may be different ways to do that, but I would really refrain that we are doing votings on policies. It is not voting. And if it's creating problems, then maybe we go the IETF way and start humming. If hand raising and voting is creating a confusion amongst our community, then I would say let's do the IETF way so that you're not counting anything and the chairs have a better way of judging consensus.
Thank you for that important clarification. Just as a clarification on your point, I noted that policy proposals are not for voting, just measure of consensus. When it comes to SIG chair and co-chair election, is this something based on consensus as well, or is it voting? Is that that's voting, right? Yeah.
Sorry to leap in, and we count hands. So you're right.
Yeah.
When it is a chair election, it is a vote,
Mm-hmm.
and we usually have staff to count the hands.
Thank you.
George from APNIC. We've got a remote participant online, and Rita would like to say, for improving participation and taking into consideration challenges of travelling for stakeholders from developing nations, remote voting should be allowed. However, the voters should have to reveal their identity while voting. It says +1 F tab.
Thank you.
From this side.
Hi, Stefan. Just to be clear, remote participation is already in place, so of course it's not as much as improved as we would like to, but we got the mailing list before for the proposal. We are all in a mailing list group, so we do share our opinions via this medium. It's for that I must support the point B for your proposal. Like we should have a try how to improve this kind of remote participation. Of course, in 12 months' time, it will be New Caledonia, so for me, it will be next door. But it will be very difficult for most of the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, from right.
Yes, Kenny Huang. APNIC is a network, internet organization, so I think remote participation is a mandatory, it's not optional. It should be equal right to every stakeholder, so I support online voting. And besides, this proposal is a little bit different compared to the other policy proposal because, as I repeat, Garrett just mentioned, and any of you have been mentioned, most of the policy, basically we don't vote. We just reach to the consensus to try to find the best interest among the stakeholders. But for this one, it's an election. So for election base, we probably can identify what's the right and obligation for any participant that can be make it thing easier. Thank you.
Mr. Parker?
One of the comments that I heard earlier was that anyone from the community can come in and, whether it is in the room or maybe elsewhere, and he should be allowed. I would like a little caution here. What I am trying to say is, this APNIC is membership driven. Members make the community of APNIC. Members elect various appointment holders, others to run this organization. Similarly, chairs and co-chairs are also very important cogs in the wheel who are being elected. They are not coming up by consensus to that extent, but they are coming up through count of votes, through a kind of an election. And whenever there is an election, a proper system and a process must be followed. Hence, per member, the way voting has to be done, it should be properly authenticated as per the rules of voting, and only people who are authorized by the respective member should be allowed to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take 3 more comments. We're running out of time.
Can I just quickly interrupt? I think we're hearing enough comments about the need for remote participation. So if people can provide specific inputs on how we should accommodate, and I think there's also, again, general consensus that we need to be more stronger in the information we require in terms of identity. So if people have suggestions, that would be really helpful. And maybe out of the practices in other RIR region, we can maybe get a feel from the room on which direction that community members will be helpful. It's not like, we don't have to exactly follow, but just, get the direction that people can support.
Okay, Tomohiro Fujisaki on the NTT. Just an input as an example. In the IETF case, IETF remote participation is free, but remote participants need to register same as the online on-site participants. So this is as an example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, this is Imran here from Pakistan. Yes, must include the remote participant for decision making, but make sure the legitimacy of the voter can be verified by some means. It will decide by the APNIC. Thank you.
Jordi Palet. Several clarifications here. First one, regarding ITF process, the whom is only to measure somehow the feeling of the meeting room. But the real consensus in ITF is achieved remotely, okay? So it means anyone without any necessary identification is providing inputs into the mailing list, and according to those inputs and the feeling that the co-chairs of the working group got in the meeting, take a decision about if there is consensus or not. It's very difficult to do that, and it's even more difficult unless there is a strong, let's say, technical concern about the protocol to move ahead or not. Okay, so I understand it's a very difficult process, and I am not really sure it's applicable exactly the same here.
Jordi, are you talking about proposals or are you talking about election?
I am talking about your proposal.
No, election process?
Yeah,
or
the election process.
Election process.
Yeah. I am trying to apply it to your proposal.
Okay, so humming by IETF on election as well.
No, I want to clarify that the humming is not the decision making.
Understood.
Okay? Because that was said before in the mic. So I just want to clarify that that's not the way we do. Now, I really think the way you should do, and I am in favor on online voting, is the same we do in other regions. Like, for example, you already mentioned RIPE, LACNIC. It's the participants in the mailing list remotely have the right to decide on the chairs, okay? On the election of the chairs. And I don't think it's right to verify the identity of those participating. I understand it has the possibility of somebody registering 200,000 emails to participate, but we don't have that kind of identification in any other registry.
I just want to make one clarification, whether you're talking about the standardization RFC process or you're talking about the election in the IETF for the working group.
I was trying to clarify what it was said before in the mic about how the IETF process works in case you want to apply it here for the election process.
Yeah, understood. And
Okay.
so I want to make a distinction between RFC development process and also the election of the working group within the IETF. And so if I hear you correctly, even the working group election is conducted based on mailing list discussions.
The working group election in IETF has a totally different process.
Yeah,
so I am not talking about that.
Yeah, but we are talking about the election.
I know, but what I am trying is to clarify what it was said before in the mic, that it was wrong. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
On the hum. Okay.
Thanks, Judy. In case you consider applying that to here, it was wrong. It is not done that way. Okay? Just to clarify that. I'm not saying you should use that. I am saying if you take that as an example, that was wrong. The person that said it probably misunderstood the process of the ITF.
Okay, okay.
Thank you, Judy. We'll take the last comment from here. Very brief, we're running out of time.
Yes, thank you. I'm János Zsoko from Hungary, actually, from the RIPE region. And I would like to make a short comment with respect to the identification of those who vote. So you made a very clear distinction between the policy proposals and the consensus of them. That's very important to keep that separate from the membership because it has to be all-inclusive process, I think. So that's what we think in the RIPE region at least. And the other part is the elections of the chairpersons. So that is a different issue. So you may require to be voted only by the membership. I think it's nothing special about that. So I don't think this would damage the process. However, I think it is wise to keep it the voting for those present because that's much easier to control the number and so on. So it's indeed very difficult. So probably that is why, in case there is no consensus on the in the RIPE region in the remote voting, then there is a ballot between the people present in the room. So these are things which you may want to consider. Of course, we don't want to make any recommendation, or I wouldn't like to. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this useful reference. So would it be possible to show the slides and then revert back to the options? So how do I go back? Yeah. So this is different region practices.
You have to make any more comments, or?
Maybe, I don't know if we have time. So just like a show of hands to get the room, but then this is not final, and then talk to me individually on what you think would make sense.
Yeah, I think we need not to go any consensus here actually, because what we get clear feedback that everybody wants to have remote participation, but there must be a way so that we can do it fairly. There is a comment, it can be only by the members, and there's also, but according to PDP, that it should be community, they should be allowed to vote. So we need to address this to information, and it has to be in a fair way. So we need to find out a way on that. Still, the solution is not came up from the discussion. So I think we need to work with the Secretariat and maybe a proposal on how we can do properly SIG chair elections accommodating the remote participation. So things to be done. I think we cannot conclude it here.
Okay, so we don't actually hear which is people's preference on the time?
You want to like then we can go for that actually, because you have 3 options. So
okay,
let's open it and you can.
So I guess out of 4 regions, APNIC, I think everybody supported having remote participation, so this is not an option. ARIN region practice is that you have to register for voting, and you have to be ARIN member to be able to vote for ARIN AC election. That's my understanding. In case this is wrong, please somebody from the ARIN region correct me. That's right. Okay, thank you. And in case of okay. Thank you for this clarification. And then in the LACNIC region, then it's not restricted to LACNIC members, but those who are registered in policy mailing list can vote. In case of RIPE region, there's no particular restriction, but in case there's difference in consensus on-site and remotely, then secret ballots to be conducted by on-site participants. So if you have...
Isumi, just one small clarification. In both in LACNIC and RIPE, because maybe some people don't know that, anyone participating in the mailing list, and the mailing list is open to anyone, okay? I think that's an important clarification. So anyone can register in the mailing list.
Yes, thank you, yeah. So, so these are the 3 directions we may be able to explore, and it doesn't have to be exactly this, But so if people can show of hands on which you think would be preferable or no opinion at this stage, maybe those are the 4 options. Would the chairs be able to help me ask questions?
Yeah, thank you, Izumi. I think we have 4 options, but from the feedback we have received, that first option is not, we need not to consider that everybody wants remote participation. So if we can, we have 3 options, 2 directions actually. We should not follow directly everything, but like Erin, that only Erin members can vote only. So, and also from here, Mr. Pahar also proposed that. So those who are actually supporting members only voting, can you please raise your hand? Voting for the election. We're discussing only about the elections, SIG chair elections.
Whether the NIR member can be treated as an APNIC member or not?
Let's treat yes. Let's say yes. Yes.
Okay, we will see some support on that, and like LACNIC, that it's very open actually, that anybody in the mailing list can vote. So actually anybody can actually join in the mailing list and vote. Is there any support for that in the room? I guess not. So that's not the direction we should be going. And then third option, that online participant can express opinion in case of no consensus, secret ballot, like the right policy. So is there any support for this kind of solutions? Still no. Or there is one support I can see. There is another option I should mention, that the community can vote remotely, but not has to be the ethnic member, but community registering himself, properly identify himself, can vote. Mm-hmm. So is there any support for that here in the room? Yeah, I can see some raise of hand for that as well. I don't know if I'm doing too hurry or not.
So just as a clarification of this option that you raised, that you don't have to be APNIC member, but you just provide information, same as meeting registration. And so anybody can join, but you have to provide some information about yourself. So how many people support for this option?
For that, and after we don't have, we're running out of time actually. So very brief, 30 second.
Aftab Siddiqui, Internet Society. Just want to make a comment that we don't have to necessarily follow any RIR. We can come up with our own solution, because the situation in our region is pretty unique. I don't think so any RIR is facing the same situation. So rather than following anybody else's policy, we should come up with our own. And we have a very clear understanding from the room that what people want. So I totally disagree with following with the consensus process for following any RIR. Thank you.
I also agree with Aftab's comment, but I just add some comment regarding the online voting. Any registered member, not only APNIC member, any registered participant who are registered for the event for APNIC, they can either voting on site or either voting online. This is for my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. So you support the 4th option, which is not applying for any other RIR, but then the one that Suman suggested. Thank you.
Rajesh Charya, speaking on personal capacity. I'm supporting Erin with the rider that all the NIR in our region, APNIC region, the member of all the NIR should also be included into the APNIC family. Not only the APNIC member including the member of the respective NIR of the APNIC region.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Noted. Yeah. One quick observation I have about this Erin option is that the voting gets restricted only to members. So anybody who wants to participate, like at this physical meeting, they cannot participate. So I think that is a potential challenge that we face with the restricting voting to APNIC members and NIR members. So in case anyone wants to go for that option, sorry, I probably will not be comfortable to develop a proposal. So feel free to make one for yourself. And then for the 4th one, I think this is something that we also saw substantial support. So maybe we can talk, and if anyone's willing to co-author, then that's really welcome.
A quick comment. We could distinguish between on-site and off-site. the people who are off-site and online, for them the restriction of member, APNIC member and NIR members could be applicable. But who are on-site, who have taken all the trouble of coming and participating and showing themselves, that exception should be there. They could be non-members as well who are on-site. It is for the online voting that this member and NIR member should be applicable, could be applicable. This is one idea.
Okay, thank you. So thank you so much for expressing your opinions, and I think it was really useful reference. Even after this session, I'm available, so feel free to come and talk to me about what you think would be reasonable. Thanks.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you all for very active participation here. I must mention that just 1 minute, I just want to remind you that we have 2 more policy sessions tomorrow morning, and first at 9 and then after tea break. So please join there. And I must also mention that just after 4 there is a ASO review meeting, and that is very important regarding policy development process with ICANN and all the RIR. So please join that meeting too. That is also very important in developing policy in our region and overall internet policy development. So thank you very much for being here, and I'm very happy to see a lot of new faces here today in the policy discussions. I hope you got a lot of interest on it, and please be with the policy development process, and so that we can create a better internet for the future. Thank you very much.